What's
I
going on,
appreciate you
buddy?
guys for being here. How you feeling? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You know that feeling when you put on a new hoodie? Like
Yeah,
just a
I do know that
crispy
feeling, man.
new hoodie. Like the screen print is like just butter.
It's
Like
butter, it's
yes,
smooth.
dude.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I feel good. I feel good.
Yo, all right. So first things first, guys. Welcome everybody. I am Fallen Neophyte. This is Cause Nova, and you guys are tuned in to Anime Crunch. Now, I have to say, Mr. Nova, how are you doing? How have you been, and how is life treating you right now, dude?
I'm doing well, dude. Honestly, I'm doing so good. And it's going to sound kind of lame on the position, but I actually just got a
Yo,
job offer from a really cool company. So the position is just tech support, right? It's a remote
yeah.
phone tech support job, but it's with Square Enix.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, they're based out here.
Yo,
Yeah. They're based out here and they need help with Final Fantasy 14 tech support. And I'm like, yeah, yes, dude.
yo, that's awesome. That's actually
Yeah.
so
And
cool.
it's
They're the
perfect for
people.
me.
Which they make which game? They make a whole
Final
bunch of them,
Fantasy,
right? Final
yeah, I mean,
Fantasy.
they're
They make a
behind
few
that
other
a
ones too, right?
lot of shit, a lot of
Yeah.
JRPGs and Japanese-based games. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I was muted on my end. My bad. All right. So
How are
once again,
you doing though? Let me ask you how you're doing, brother. How's life been? What's been up, dude? You got big
oh
plan. You had fire team trials yesterday. Big plans in a
yeah,
couple
dude.
weeks. Fill us in.
All right, so so yeah, everyone in my community, if you guys already know, but yesterday
What's
was Fire
going
Team
on, guys?
Trials.
What's
It
up,
was
Nico?
like three to
Oh,
four
he's
months of
muted.
preparation
Sorry.
ahead of time, having meetings
How's it?
nonstop, talking to so
He's
many
good.
different people, kind of getting a
Sup,
whole team of
fellas? Yeah, dude, we're
moderators, like
about to talk about
15 of them in the
Platinum End.
background. It was absolutely nutty.
First, no,
But
Brian was
last
here
night was
beforehand.
incredible, guys, and I cannot
It's
thank
the
you guys
best
enough.
feeling, bro. I
Voodoo
got a
Ranger
Roy
was
Purdy
happy. All the
hoodie.
contestants were happy, bro.
My
Even
brother kicks it with him
this
all the
just
time.
in, BSG actually hit us up after the first hour of the event. They were like, yo, you guys are incredible. We have to have a meeting on Monday. So the developers of the game were like, yo, let's actually have a conversation. Let's have a meeting. So like, I'm super excited for that too,
I
dude.
have a question, and it's like I don't want to bring down any vibes, but I'm very curious. Being that Tarkov is a Russian game, what's going on? Is there a
Um,
connection? Is anything going to change? Sanctions going to affect
so
the game? Because I know there's a lot of sanctions right now with technology
yeah.
and stuff coming out. Is that going to affect you guys?
So basically, what's happening is with BSG is just not taking a focal point on the situation, right? Because
Good.
game developer is completely different from like actual
Sure, and
government
we know
issues,
that
right?
the government of Russia certainly doesn't speak for all of the people of Russia, and
Exactly.
that's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I'm Putin's in control over there and does what he wants. So I don't know if he's
Yeah,
gonna.
so basically they have to just kind of like not make a public statement. If they make a public statement, for example, against Russia, then their company gets shut down by Russia,
Right,
right?
right. Because
So they can't
technically,
do
it's
that.
still income, right? I'm sure they're paying taxes, so it's still
Yeah.
income for the stop for Russia, the Kremlin. Yeah. Okay, cool. I was just curious, man. It's been on. We've been talking about it a lot on my streams, and it's obviously in everybody's hearts right now. And
Yeah,
we're
we actually had we had a relief fund during the tournament for Ukraine
that's
during
amazing.
the event too, so that was really good as well. But yeah, overall, yeah, it was a incredible experience. I'm really excited for the future of the events, and then moving forward, man, we have the New York meetup with like about like I think it's 10 different streamers over an entire weekend creating content in New
That's gonna
York.
be so lit.
I'll be in San Diego in March, and then TwitchCon in October. So we have lots of stuff planned, guys, and I cannot wait. And I'm working on some integrations for
Yeah,
the
TwitchCon
stream
was
as well.
announced October.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. Is that in
super
San
hyped,
Diego
dude.
too?
Yeah, it is.
San Diego and Amsterdam. We should go to the Amsterdam one, bro. Fuck them all up.
That'll be a vibe, bro.
Right? Like fuck them all up. Where you guys at? We in Amsterdam, cuz. How you guys doing? Yeah, we're gonna be talking about Platinum End today. A pretty good series. Obviously, everybody's gonna have their own opinion on it. This series is from the creators of Death Note, so it caught our attention. If you guys haven't seen Death Note, a classic anime, classic thriller, mind games. Death Note's one of the classics, long running. So we had to take a look at Platinum End, and that's what we'll be discussing today. If you're looking to
Yeah.
watch it, it's on Hulu, and I'm pretty sure it's on Crunchyroll.
It is
But
on Crunchyroll.
yeah,
It's actually in the top 10 of the popular animes right now on Crunchyroll.
right.
Overall, yeah, this is an interesting anime, to say the least. It has a lot of, I see a lot of connections between Death Note and this anime where
Oh
they
yeah.
go into like very, very adult themes. And I will say ahead of time, guys, there are some trigger warnings when it comes to this anime. There is a lot of talks about suicide. There's a lot of talks about abuse. There's a lot of things like that and a lot of outlooks that are very, very depressing and kind of triggering.
It
So you
looks
gotta
at the
always,
darker side of mental health. Like you
yeah,
will see it. It's not gonna like glorify it, but it will come up. And if it's a trigger for you, we want to
yeah,
definitely make sure you guys
just
know.
the heads
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But moving forward, do you guys want to show? You want to show the trailer so everyone knows what we're talking about, and then we can go ahead and talk about some of the main plot points and the characters.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, alrighty.
Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna pull it up.
Pulling it up now too.
Bing bong. I have it. I just have to switch screens. There we are. Oh, and I
Yeah,
have it
you're good.
paused on this beautiful part where Nase is carrying uh Kakahashi and it's like an angel? Question mark.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. In three, two, one, enjoy.
Guys, I keep these muted so that we don't get copyright stricken on YouTube. But thankfully it's subbed.
Yeah, and the first episode's heavy duty too.
Oh, very much so.
It goes 0 to 100 real quick.
Those first few episodes really caught me. Really caught me.
Yeah.
I came here to make you happy, Mirai-kun. Nase is awesome, man.
There's a lot of cool concepts. We have a lot to talk about. 100%.
We do. We do. So do you want to start off and give them a little basis of the plot? Maybe talk a little bit about the first episode?
Yeah, 100%. I'm just gonna go ahead and find a
Because
nice
we
little
usually
scene to
do that,
pause
guys.
on.
We kind of give a little bit spoilers on the first episode because we want to set the plot. But other than that, we will try to maintain or refrain from giving up any spoilers to the plot.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving forward, let's go ahead and talk about kind of the idea behind this entire situation. Basically, the world that we live in is like a normal world that we are in now, but there is a god figure, and this god figure is kind of dying. He's passing away little by little, and the angels need to go ahead. His servants. He selects a handful of angels, all different ranks. So you have special rank.
13,
You have
right?
yeah, you have a whole bundle of them, but there's three main ranks, like
Yes.
tier 1, tier 2, and then a special, right? And they all have to go out and select a god candidate. And basically, what the concept is here is that humans are actually selected in a battle royale where they end up becoming god, and they're all different individuals with very different outlooks on life and very different kind of perspectives. And these individuals will be able to change the world as a god figure, right? They can mold it into their own figure of what they want the world to be in the future. Moving forward, you then go ahead and meet your first main character, Mirai, who gets selected by a special rank angel called Nase, and these are kind of your two main characters that you're going to be following throughout the entire storyline. And it's also good to note that the three ranking of angels give their god candidates different abilities, right? Special rank gives them the wings of an angel, gives them a red arrow and a white arrow. Now, Nova, do you want to explain the difference between a red and a white arrow?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Fallen said, the special rank angels, the top rank angels get all three abilities, and as we move down, they'll start to lose those abilities. But the special rank angels get a red arrow, as Fallen said, which you could basically consider to be Cupid's arrow. This arrow, some technical. They get really technical in the details of the arrow. The arrow is able to be shot, I think, about 30 meters, and this arrow's purpose is to make someone artificially fall for you for the next 14 to or 33 days.
30 days.
Yeah,
33
yeah,
days,
30
yeah.
to 33 days. And in this time, I guess the red arrow exists. Not that they will permanently fall in love with you once the arrow is gone, but the point of the arrow is to giving you a month to make that person fall in love with you. Very interesting topic, but non-lethal. And then you have the white arrow, which is basically the same as the red, but it is a lethal. It is essentially a bullet. It is an
Yeah.
unstoppable bullet that can only, which is very interesting, can only be blocked by itself. But yeah, that's the red arrow makes people fall in love with you, and the white arrow makes people go bye bye.
Yeah. The one thing to note about the red arrows is that each god candidate does have kind of a stock of a variety of arrows. They have I forget exactly how many it is. It's like 15 or so arrows.
Yeah, I
And
think they
what
can
they
shoot
are actually
15. Yeah.
and what they're able to do is for example, one individual in the show actually uses almost all of them, and he shoots arrows at various different people, right? Multiple different kinds of people, doctors to get free doctors visits. He hits detectives. He hits a whole bunch of individuals to be able to have them on his side, because all these people end up falling artificially in love with him. So then he's able to ask them to do things, and they'll just do it because they want to, right?
Yeah, it's very
Quote
interesting.
unquote.
And as we
Now,
step down those, sorry, and let me finish up real quick. As
yeah,
we step down, those angels lose things. So when we get to first rank, the angels lose the white arrow, so they lose the
yeah.
ability to kill, but they maintain their wings and their red arrow, which they're able to pass on to a god candidate, which all angels are. And then you get into the bottom rank of angel who have no arrows and they just have the
No, no,
wings.
they have they don't have wings. They have the red arrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. They don't have wings. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit more treacherous for them. And you'll see why when you check out the series. The wings obviously give them a lot more maneuverability and
Yeah.
transportation wise. So the wings
Oh
come in
yeah.
handy quite a
I
bit.
mean the wings make you go at like light speed where like people can't see you. Like you're super
Yeah.
super fast and it's crazy. So like along with that it's also good to note that the god candidates there's like a whole bundle of them. There's a few different ones and they all have to either kill each other to become god or they can actually go ahead and sit down and just like talk to each other
Yeah,
and
there's no
vote.
actual rules how they come to the determination, but it's kind of Highlander rules. There can be only one at the end, and that will be the
Yeah.
selection. But that person who becomes God is then literally God and has the power to do anything. And they remind the characters throughout that a few times they come into some conundrums. Well, like, who should be God, and what if this happens? And they're like, bruh, you'll be God. You can do whatever you want to do. You can reset time if you wanted. Like, oh, it's a pretty interesting concept. Yeah, but talking about our first character, Mudai, yeah,
Midai, Midai, Midai.
Kakahashi, which was
Yeah.
hard to say because you want to say Takahashi, but it's Kakahashi with an H in
Yeah.
there. But an interesting character we pick up in him. This, like as Fallen said, it's set in a modern day. What I found very interesting about this story is the entire thing takes place in Tokyo. Like
Yes.
the entire thing
For
takes place in
example,
Tokyo.
for some reason, all the angels chose their god candidates in one country.
Well, they give you a reason, but it's like it's not enough. They give you a
It's
very
not enough.
slight
Yeah.
reason for that, and you're like, that's not enough.
Yeah, you do see a lot of people, a lot of individuals, like they're later in the show, you do see four individuals enter the scene, right?
Mhm.
Because eventually these guys get publicly known. There's a whole bunch of shenanigans that go on. Now, the first episode does kind of deal with a very, very heavy theme, right?
Yeah.
There is a theme of suicide. There's a theme of depression. It's all the darker sides of mental illness, and then usually the angels will go ahead and save these individuals. So all the god candidates, from my experience, are troubled individuals, people who have a
Yes.
lot of issues, who have a very negative outlook towards the world and want to change it for the better. So various angels will select them and then work with them. Now it's good to note that every angel is a angel of something, right?
Yes.
There's an angel of destruction, there's an angel of all sorts of things like knowledge and whatnot too. You want to go a little bit more into that?
Yeah. So as he said, the angels are selecting the god candidates based on this will to want to change the world, but there's also a second factor into that. And as we talked about, there is a bit of some trigger warnings there because we see in the first episode we find Kakahashi is in a very depressed state. He's given up on his will to live. And you'll see why when you watch that first episode. And basically, Nase or a lot of these angels are sort of there to talk them off the edge. And most of the
Yeah, basically.
and almost all of their suicidal thoughts and depression is driven upon that need that Fallen brought up to change the world. And you
Yeah.
see that with every single character. They wanted to die, and then you see why they wanted to die, which was very important, and that is what selects them as the god candidate. There are 13 angels. Each angel seems to have its own theme, but we find out later that these themes can change, and as well as the angels' rank in class can change if the
Yeah.
angels can get demoted and promoted. So it's real. There's a lot of moving pieces in the system. Like it's not like a lot of anime where they kind of just are like, it's angels, bro. Just take it. This show is like, here's the facts and figures on our angels and how it works, and I really like that. And we see those themes in Death Note, so it's like it's very
Yeah.
familiar when it comes over with all the explanation, the internal monologuing. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I
It's
rambled a bit.
interesting. It's actually it's really interesting to see like the duality between Death Note and Platinum End. Whereas Death Note focuses on like Death God Shinigami
Oh, that's
versus Platinum End focuses
yeah.
on angels, right? So it's complete polar opposites, but both deal with a life and death situation kind of plot, right?
Yep.
So you have some similarities here and there. Whereas Death Note will focus on a lot of heavier themes, a lot of murder, a lot of like kind of like very thick mental health issues, and same thing with Platinum End too. Now this anime for me, the beginning catches me and grabs me really, really quick.
Agreed.
And then I wish they would have kept with the Death Note vibe of
The
like
pacing
keeping
changes entirely.
the pacing
Yeah.
changes entirely different. It's also like in Death Note, like Light Yagami, right? He actually is, yeah, he has this power with the Death Note, but he's not more than a human, right? He still walks around, he still does things like a normal human does, but he just has his ability to kill anyone he wants. I would have loved to see this anime executed in that similar way, where he has the abilities of an angel, but he sticks with just being like kind of a kind of secretive, like kind of like tactical, sneaky human
Mhm.
just trying to win, versus like what ends up happening later, where they basically become like superheroes, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a couple parts in there, and we'll see how you guys feel about it. But yeah, this like so we'll talk about it when we'll talk about the setting and the art. In that sense, in the art style, outside of like the angels, of course, because I think the angels differ greatly from the Shinigami character design. But the
Oh
character and the
yeah,
world design, like all the characters, it's pretty much identical to the Death Note artwork. It's very similar in shading
yeah.
style, very similar in line weight. It feels very similar to that. Of course, like we saw a lot of
It's just like a
detail.
little spruced up a little bit. That's about it.
Exactly,
Gives you that
exactly.
like more modern like feel to the animation, but beyond that, very similar style. The
Mhm.
intro song too, very similar style to Death Note as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as Fallen said, the beginning of this, the first few episodes, depending on your opinion, really lock you in and they get you into this state where you become very emotionally attached to Murai and you want to see his development. You want to see him how he reacts to his new position and the things that have happened to him in the first few episodes. And it's just sort of I guess like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the pacing. The way it kind of and like Fallen said, it kind of goes into a superhero sort of vibe and theme later. And we won't reveal too much, but it kind of just changes the whole aspect of the
It
anime. It
changes
takes it
like
from
yeah, it changes like the entire
like the
experience of
theme
the
of the
anime.
show changes at that point, right? It goes from like a
Yeah,
somber real life, like slice of life anime into like well, it's not really slice of life because you have angels and it's fantasy, but you get what I mean. It's still based in a real world, and then you hit this very like what
it's a
happened? Are we?
turning point. It's a
Yeah,
turning
it's a
point
turning
basically.
point. Yeah, and it switches on and off a couple times throughout the series, which is very interesting. But it's almost like this anime couldn't decide what its theme was going to be, whether it was going to be like a more somber Death Note style theme, or if it was going to be like almost an action theme at
Yeah.
sometimes it really fights for. So I struggled to stay connected to some of the characters due to this, but mainly Mirai, Kakahashi, the main character, I was able to understand his motivations and follow him throughout the whole
Yeah.
story.
I
Yeah.
think they just kind of I think they were getting lost between like being meta and also creating
Exactly.
something that's really good.
Totally new, right?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so like there was these superhero almost like there's an arc basically where they're basically like superheroes, and then there's another arc afterwards where I wish they would have stuck with that vibe, where like
Yes.
they're in
Yes.
black hoods and they're kind of just like going around looking for people and like they're being tactical and sneaky, like that shit I liked. But
Right.
like the whole superhero stuff kind of threw me for a loop. Now that is gonna be your one of your two, I guess, two main arcs in this 20 episode stint. So right now it's good to note that it's 20 episodes long, and they're gonna be picking up again. You said Nova next week, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So this series actually has like two more episodes to go. The next episode comes out March 4th, and then I'm not sure. I think the next episode's like 2 weeks after that, or a week. I think it's 1 week after that, and then I think the
Okay.
series is over, and then it picks back up in like 2 or 3 months for the second part, which will have a second director, an entirely different director, which is pretty interesting. We're gonna see how that goes, and we'll probably
How
pick
they
it up and
execute it.
review it. Yeah, exactly, because since it is a different director, maybe it's going to feel entirely different. And I think I even read that it's going to be based on a different character, which I'm like,
Huh.
how?
Like a different perspective, maybe.
That's what I
It
was
depends on
like,
how
someone
this
else's
ends.
perspective. Exactly. I was like, is it going to be someone else's perspective? And then I thought maybe it's a different time, but like
Hmm.
God probably has existed for like tens of thousands of years or whatever. So that probably doesn't make sense. I don't know.
It
We'll have
could
to
be
see.
they could do like a Fate Stay Night situation where they go in like they have Stay Night and then they go Fate Zero, which is a prequel to Stay Night, and they
Right.
do that
Yeah. A
kind of
prequel kind
scenario
of thing. Could be.
where you
Very
can
much
find the
could be.
current god, right? Now the entire show kind of progresses and you do have like really cool fight scenes. There is like two main antagonist characters. It is interesting to see how there is a very diverse perspective on life, right? A
Oh,
lot of your
absolutely.
characters all have way different perspectives on how they want the world to be. There's one person that, like, for example, he's like, this one's really rough.
Yeah.
He's a kid character who like wants people to be able to die when they want to die, if that makes sense. So he
You
wants
know
to
what
create a
though? I connected with him more than his emotion and like the depth of that, and it felt
he had
so.
more depth than others,
Yeah,
in
I
my
loved him.
opinion.
I mean, it was a strong topic, right? And a sensitive topic, but I loved that character because, I mean, especially if you know anything about Japan, it's a serious problem there. The birth rate, the suicide rate are serious
Yeah.
problems there. And that would be possibly the idealism of a young boy in Tokyo, Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's very
Yeah.
true. So I feel like there's certain characters that had a lot of depth to them. There are other characters that are very shallow, like that one female who only had red arrows for a while,
Oh my
and
God.
all she would do was just like
Yeah.
red arrow masseuses and just
And
people
they
to like
don't build on her at all. There's no development
none.
there. Like even up to the final episode, some of the and I think that's on purpose. Like I mean, obviously she's a shallow-minded person, a shallow personality,
Yeah.
so they keep her shallow, but you want to every other character gets a very detailed, not every other, but most of them get a very detailed background. We want to see why she acts this way because we see that with other characters they give us the backstory, we see what they're after, why they act this way. With her it's very vague, and
Yeah.
a couple others is the same.
It's just like super shallow for her, and then like the one kid character who ends up like
Nisimo, is it? I can't remember his name. Let me
it's
double check. I
let me
can
check.
check the
Yeah.
fandom right now actually.
Yeah, yeah, go for it. But like, there's one character who like you expect to have more depth, but he's just a kid who just wants to play and have fun, and like then there's like really no kind of depth to it. Now there was, I think I would say there's about like out of all the god candidates, there's like maybe 5 who get real true depth to them, 5 to 6 of
Yeah.
them, and then the rest of them just kind of like are shallow background like god candidates. Now it is cool to see that you have various different kinds of relationships with the angels versus their god candidate, and all the angels want their god candidate to win, and it seems like each angel has an ulterior motive, if that makes sense. Each angel
Except for
wants their,
one. Except for one.
which one?
Nase. I don't
Not
see
say,
her ulterior
well, we
motive.
don't we don't we don't know
Yet.
it yet,
Yeah,
right?
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Because we
we don't
do
know if
find
there
out
is
some
an ulterior
interesting
motive.
things about her
Yeah.
toward the end of the series.
Yes, that's very true. So like there are, each angel has like a motive as to why they want their god candidate to win, and then why it would help them to get up the ranks, right?
Right.
If they were the god candidate. So it is interesting to show some depth between the angel figures and not just have them kind of in the background. It is good to note that only other god candidates can see the angels. Civilians can't see them.
Can't
So
see
no
the
one else
wings,
can see them.
arrows, or angels. Or can't see the wings, arrows, or angels. But they can see these characters when they're flying, which is important to note. This is why they're believed. Is they can't see the wings, but these people are floating through the air and flying through the air. So it's pretty obvious that these people, have some sort of ability that they can't obtain. And they've
Yeah.
seen people drop dead in front of some of these candidates as a result of a white arrow. And they're actually dead with no proof. So they're pretty much forced to believe that what they're seeing is happening. And it's very
Yeah.
interesting the way they do this because, like you said, it's not undercover at all. In fact, the whole scenario is brought to public light very quickly. Which is quite interesting the way the public, I think that they have the public react in the anime. I don't necessarily think it's very realistic. If the world were to find out about these things happening, I don't think daily life would just resume and continue on. I think there would be utter chaos, especially with the religions fighting over the fact that, like, okay, especially polytheistic religions. Imagine
Yeah.
if these polytheistic religions find out that there's one god, a monotheistic, like, they're like, oh shit, like that's going to cause massive chaos and disruption
That's
around the
very,
world.
very true.
Yeah.
But it's also good to note that later on in the actual like arc or series, you do get to question this god figure.
Yes, it's
We
very
do get to,
interesting.
yeah.
That's where the second arc kind of starts, right? Like there's a
Yeah, the
turn
second
there.
arc comes in.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like it's basically they drop it down to the final 5 god candidates by the second arc here, and you meet the final one, which is, I believe his name is Yoneda, and
Yeah.
he's like a super famous, the youngest like Nobel Peace Prize winner in the nation. He
Brilliant,
has an honor
man.
award.
Yeah.
Very, very intelligent and brilliant individual. Kind of socially awkward kind of
Yeah.
individual, and then he has like a very, very twisted outlook on life. And his goal here is to prove that God is not real.
Mhm.
So then he's able to show, like, and he actually poses a very good idea. So it's actually a very similar theme that you see in like Christmas movies, like an Elf, for example. if not enough people believe in God, then God goes away and dies. Just like
Yeah.
an elf, where if not enough people believe in Santa, there's not enough Christmas cheer. Santa can't fly a sleigh.
Right.
Very simple,
That's
similar,
that's true. I never made that
completely
connection.
different,
Oh my god.
completely different things, but it's similar topics and
Yeah.
ideas here, right?
Yeah.
So, as people kind of like like the God candidates go into the main public spotlight, they see all this kind of stuff. Yoneda brings up, since he's so popular, right? He's known around the world. He has fans. Once he starts bringing up these ideas, people stop believing in God because they realize that God is just a human who gets elected to be the God figure, right?
Right.
So then people stop believing it, and then that God starts dying more and more and more. It's really interesting, and it's also wild that in this anime, all these angels are depicted this way. Because if you actually read like religious texts, the angels are fucking nutty, dude. They have like a billion wings. They have eyes all over their bodies. It's wild.
Yes, sir.
Seraphims are wild.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're given this like human form. You like almost, most of them. I love that there's some, but there is a lot of individuality with the character design in the angels, and I literally did note on that. I liked it. I liked that every single angel had different wing placement, different characteristics, different
Yeah.
body. You know what I mean? Like they might be
I mean,
aged, they might
the
be young,
angel of destruction had a nutty like face design. It was actually
and
pretty
like a
crazy.
swollen belly. Like I didn't understand what was up with that. Was that like pregnancy? What was that? Did you find any
What
connection with that? The Angel of
the
Destruction had a very like swollen stomach, as if they were
I
pregnant.
didn't notice that actually.
Yeah,
I was mainly focused on like the
the
shriveled up
weird.
mouth that would never
Yeah.
move and has like a cage around
Also,
it,
they
dude.
only whisper. They never
Yeah.
speak in like a normal tone. They're like they get real close and they're like. Shoo, shoo, shoo.
It's also really good to note that when the God candidates are fighting, the angels are all kind of just vibing together. Like they all
Oh
just kind of
yeah.
like go in the background of the fight scene and they're just like chilling, like chatting about what's going on and stuff like that. It's always I always found that funny. It's a little bit like a relief
Thank you
there.
so much for the
But you
follow,
have
Shade
like
of the
two main
Lost. Thank you
antagonists
so
in this
much.
show.
Welcome.
There is one called Metropoliman. He's kind of a terrible perspective. He thinks he's above everybody else, and he has like his own motives. He wants to kind of raise the dead basically and change the world in his own like perspective.
I liked his arc too. That's another thing that really fits in, and I don't mean to stereotypic or categorize Japanese culture, but we see a lot of that in Japanese literature and things like that. But this yeah, we won't go too much into his arc, but it's very interesting his motivations and, like you said, wanting the specific person that he wants to bring back from the dead, and his relationship with that person is so questionable. And you can start to see what like
It's twisted.
he's already a psychopath, right? Before
Yeah.
any of it really happens, and then it's like that kind of unleashes it, and he then is like open about it. I don't know. It's very
Well,
weird.
you're giving a psychopath way too much power, so
Yeah.
they get even further and further. It's wild. So like that's cool. I love that kind of like mental deep dive, that how
Yes.
power affects individual perspective on life and how they then use said power. Right, Midai is going to be your most well balanced kind of like level headed character in this
Although
entire
he
like
will
show.
frustrate you. He will
Yeah,
frustrate when it comes to sensical decisions. Oh dear
decision
lord.
making.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like that.
but
Yeah.
he does come up with like a idea of something that the angels have never seen, right? A lot of the god candidates will shoot their arrows at each other, and they actually were able to you're able to stack arrows together to get even more range, right?
Yes.
But but Mirai was the first one to use it almost as if it was a sword or a dagger to block arrows and then attack directly at
Yeah,
people.
like a
So that
melee
was
sort of
kind of
combat.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was really cool to see.
Because and his whole reasoning for that too is that these guys they're projectile weapons, or so they thought. Midai's concept is, oh, if I can get close to him, it's a lot harder to fire an arrow, right? Like I'm going to be swinging and stabbing before he's
Mhm.
able to fire an arrow if I can get into that range. So yeah, it was really smart of him. And then of course using it to block another arrow was like the first time
That
anyone
was
had ever
big
seen
brain.
that. Yeah, it was huge brain.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of weird how they build up his character. He finds himself in certain predicaments and decisions that go against his morals, and then he sort of uses his brain to get out of it. He sort of overthinks
Yeah.
the situation, pulls a light Yagami, and makes his way out of the situation. But you kind
Not
of
nearly as
sense,
smart though. Not
right?
nearly as smart
No,
as Light.
that's what
Yeah.
I was gonna say. You sense that it couldn't last. Like almost every time this happens, you can see it's like by the skin of his teeth. It's barely made. He barely makes it through the situation. It's not as if anything is very premeditated until later in the season when they do start to plan. But I think Mirai starts to take a back seat to a lot of what happens in the later season.
Yeah, 100%. And you do see that his moral code frustrates me, man. But like, he does have a nice aspect. His goal in life is to make sure that everyone else is happy. They find
Can find their
happiness.
personal happiness, right?
Yeah, their own personal happiness. So like, realistically, he would be the best God candidate. Like that perspective is the most balanced and most like, he actually says that he wouldn't change anything
But
as
that's the
God.
I think
He just
that's the
wants people to do
predicament
it.
there. That's the conundrum with his morality is that some people want things that would affect other people's happiness. So not
Yes.
every the answer is that not everyone can be happy because some people's happiness negatively affects others' happiness.
Others.
And
Yeah.
Mirai has yet, through what I've seen, to
To
come up with an
realize
answer
that.
for this. Yeah, to
Yeah.
understand it and change his morality. He's just oh, he keeps hitting this wall, and like, and it's brought up to him many times throughout the series where he hits this wall, and as I said, he sort of finds his way around it, but you get the sense that like this can't last forever. He's gonna have to
Yeah.
come to this realization at some point.
So moving forward, you do have a few kind of key characters. Can you quickly just check Midai's like significant other character, what her name was?
Suki,
Um, Suki.
yeah, I think
Do you
it's Suki. Yeah,
Yeah, so you have those two main characters. You have like basically a female protagonist. Mirai's your male protagonist. You have a few other
Saki.
characters,
My apologies,
Saki,
My
who
apologies.
enter the scene. And then you have a few main angels that you're going to be interacting with. But beyond that, the kind of main cast kind of stays small. You do have like a few like almost quote unquote FBI agents who enter the scene too, are kind of helpful.
That
But
was.
like,
Can we talk about that? Like,
yeah.
like I was like, wait, I was looking at the episode count and when like you're introducing new characters like right now,
Yeah,
like
like at the towards the end, bro. Like,
yeah. But
I
that
don't
being
know.
said, let's talk a little bit. We talked about a lot about Nase, and we just mentioned Saki, who is actually Murai's childhood friend. They grew up
Yeah,
together. Murai's sort of had this, emotional connection to her since he was a child. And you'll find out more about Murai's backstory and why when you watch the series. But he has a connection to Saki. Eventually finding out that she's a god candidate too, and they decide to sort of work together. But her angel is awesome. Her angel
yeah.
Revel,
Revel,
the god,
Revel's
the
cool.
angel
I
of
like him.
trickery, but then later you'll see some things change. As I said, the angels are able to advance and be
Yeah.
promoted and demoted. So definitely check out this series. But Revel is like probably my favorite angel. Like I like Revel a
Yeah,
lot.
he's really cool. Nase's like cute. She's like your little kawaii like little angel.
Yeah.
But Revel is actually really cool. I do enjoy his character. How he actually is like one of the few angels you actually see his character develop too.
Oh,
He
very
goes
much
through
so.
struggles.
I
He goes
love
through
it, dude.
hard times and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I do really appreciate that kind of stuff.
And I think he has like he's the most and you see this because of his
Be right back.
promotion later on. Yeah, absolutely. You guys will see this in the series because of his promotion later on. He interacts more with the humans than almost any other angel and he connects with them more emotionally than I think than almost any other angel and this leads to later on a very nice plot device that basically gets him promoted, which is really sick. Other than that, I want to say thank you to everybody who's being here. Another shout out to Shade. Thank you so much Shade for the follow. I try to get in there, but we burn through the reviews and make sure they don't go on too long. Because me and Fallen, when we first started doing Anime Crunch, they were going on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So now we try to really blast the content in there, go over the reviews, and then answer in chat when we can. But thank you guys so much for being here. A big shout out to Rise Miko, my friend. How are you? New hoodie feeling is the best. Yes, it is. Aqua, good to see you. It's easy to do. Yeah, true. Well, I
But
mean,
yeah.
like we keep the discussion rolling. It's really a show, you know. But hey,
Yeah.
brother.
But yeah, Revel is the one angel in my opinion. And hi everybody, I'm Fallen Neophyte.
This is Fallen
Um,
Neophyte. He's cool as shit.
so Revel is actually one of the few angels who actually understands the human experience, which is really cool to see, right? Because there you do have this kind of like sense that angels are completely separate from humans, and he's kind of the bridge between the two. And as his character develops later in the show, you actually start seeing him analyze the human perspective in
Yeah.
certain situations,
He
which
understands
is really
human
cool.
motivation better than any other angel. They're often left like wondering why did my human do that? Why did that god candidate do that? But Revel usually has an answer and understands the motivation.
Hell yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's why I really liked him as a character. He's the most developed, and now I'm interested in the Angel of Destruction. See where that one goes. The
Mhm.
Angel of Darkness basically knows the secrets of heaven, right? And
Oh
she
yeah.
hasn't revealed any of that information. So
Yadaway, what's his
that's
name?
another one.
What's that kid's name? That's his angel, right? The angel of
Yeah,
darkness
yeah,
is
yeah. The little kid, yeah. And good something to note. This little kid's pretty twisted. Like he killed his whole family, right? Basically. or
He assisted with their death, so
assisted? Yeah.
but essentially you could look at it as I would say, you know, if you're in front of a jury, it's manslaughter. But essentially, yes, this child he has a different perspective on suicide, for example. And a lot of people, I don't want to get too much into this, but there is the concept that a lot of people think that, oh, the pain and suffering ends when I go. And that is essentially his philosophy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
He doesn't
that
want
kind
people
of
to
like,
suffer. He thinks that life
yeah.
is suffering. Yes, that yeah, and then there's actually very similar perspectives to that. That life is the suffering and the afterlife is the pain, and a lot of religions actually mirror that. So if it's funny that he says that, he's very anti-religious and anti-God, but at the same time, his ideals mirror what a lot of the religious texts say.
And it makes sense that the angel of darkness chose him, right? A
Yes,
lot of these characters, like the angels, like their angels make sense as to why they chose their god candidate, which is really cool to see. Now there are a few god candidates who you really don't get to see their angel too much or hear much from them,
right.
like that one guy who just like basically shooting red arrows at all like Tokyo pop stars and just
Yeah,
like dating all of them at
he's
once, like
essentially, and I'm sorry for saying this, but like a horny dude. He's a horny
yeah.
dude. He uses his red arrows to get babes. It's so weird, and we see him for like yeah half quarter of an episode. He's out.
Literally
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we've talked about the setting. We talked a bit about the plot. We're discussing some of the characters. As we said, there
characters.
are a few arcs in the story. The timing is a bit weird. Maybe you guys can check it out. Let us know how you felt about it if you've seen it. I
The
would have.
pacing's a bit odd. The pacing's a little bit
Yeah.
odd. Like there's certain like stints of episodes that are like fast paced and keep going really quick, and then there's certain stints where it just like slows down, like really slow. I'm like, okay, so I kind of like was up and down with it. I loved it, then kind of fell out of it, then loved it, then kind of fell out of it. It was a
Exactly.
kind
The
of like
whole
a
time.
roller coaster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
would
whole
watch
time.
4 episodes like them. The next 4 episodes, I'd be like, "What is happening?" And then we'd have like a little backstory episode, a little filler episode that got serious for a while, and I'd like that. And then we'd get back into like action scenes. I'd be like, not really what I'm looking for." Like you said,
Yeah,
I would have preferred a mental game over like an actual physical fight about 90% of the
because
time.
it's hard to come across an anime like for example the writer of Death Note and Code Geass are some of the most intelligent animes. It's not anything like focus on like having superpowers or I'm super powerful and I could shoot a bigger beam. No, it's like
A
a
chess
mental
game.
game,
Yeah,
and there's not a lot of people who can create that kind of content. There's not a lot of people who can create that kind of intelligent content. So when I heard this was made by the guy who made Death Note, I was super excited to see intelligent content that made
right.
me think,
And we saw
right?
hints of it. We saw specks of it and certain characters that really caught our attention. Like you mentioned,
Yeah,
the scientist, the young kid with the very negative aspects. Yadaway, is that his name?
I have to check. Let me see.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, it's very close to that Yadaway or something like that. Like very, some of those characters really, really get into that Death Note style
Shuji.
monologuing.
Shuji
Shuji,
not yeah, Shuji Nakaumi.
Nakaumi, yeah, and Susumu is the young blonde guy. Yeah.
Yes, and then you have Gaku Yoneda, who is a super intelligent, famous Nobel Peace Prize guy, and then Kanade Uryu, who is like your Metropoly man kind of character, like kind of like I'm above everybody else, you know?
hmm Do you want to let me pull up his name? But do you want to talk a little bit about one of the sadder god candidates that we had? Let me find his name just so I can.
Oh yeah.
What was his
Great
name?
character. He is the one who kind of introduces the whole
Hajime.
superhero
Hajime.
Hajime. Yeah, uh, he
Yeah.
he introduces like kind of like the whole entire like superhero aspect because he works for like a clothing company that's also a military company, designs all this stuff, so he creates like these almost like stab proof armors for like certain characters.
Oh,
So you kind of
that's Mukaido. That's Mukaido. Sorry,
oh it's Hokkaido
Hajime
kind
is
of
purple hair guy. That's what I was talking about. But
oh
let's talk
purple
about
hair
them
guy.
both.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Okay,
continue,
got it.
continue. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry about
say
that,
his name
Blaze.
again,
I've been trying to
Hokkaido.
figure out what's going on with that.
I'm pretty sure. All right.
Yeah, Mukaido.
Mukaido, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's actually like he has a super sad backstory too. So he has cancer, he's dying, he accepted death, and then he ends up becoming a god candidate, and he's still dying during that whole experience. But he does help the two main characters basically get these cool abilities, kind of the cool suits. He kind of really helps them grow as individuals, which is cool. But his story is really sad. Like the
Yeah.
cancer ends up consuming him, right? So like he's a super sad character. Now you were talking about the other character that
Hajime.
completely slipped my Hajime. That guy's super sad too, man. You want to
Oh
talk
my
about him?
god, yeah, his backstory is fucked. So we find out that Hajime grew up basically under a bridge in a utility closet with his mother, who was, for lack of a, she worked in the sex work industry. She was a prostitute, it seemed, and it seems that he was born out of one of these altercations, and just not cared for, watching these things happen over his entire life. No interaction at school, being socially isolated.
Awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awkward. And I mean, they try to portray him as ugly, which
Yeah.
yeah, portray him as ugly, which he then, like, he uses his god powers to correct all that. If you watch the show, he actually uses his god powers in a very selfish but interesting way. I was like, huh, I wondered if someone was going to do that, and then they actually had someone do that. But Hajime's motivations are quite weird, and I really like, I just like the way his character plays out, and the fact that he starts out from such a dark state and such weird motivations, but then is able to redeem himself in sort of a way and kind of help
Yeah.
the positive side, or the moral side, the good moral side fight. I liked Hajime, especially toward the end
Yeah.
there. I mean, he was
He
being
had a lot.
affected by a red arrow,
A red
but
arrow, which is something to
yeah,
note, yeah. But like beyond that, there's a lot of movement between characters and what their perspectives are. Some people do change their like plan of action. They kind of go into
sure.
other people's sides and whatnot. So you do see some kind of diversity and kind of motives
It's
among
actually,
a lot
I
of the
want to
characters.
mention too, without giving away too much, it's important to note that the red arrow has stipulations, right? So it makes people align with your ideals. They want to please you. They love you. But a red arrow, you cannot make someone kill someone with a red arrow unless it was something they already had
Wanted to do,
plans to
yeah,
do or wanted to do. Which is really great about Hajime, and I think that's what redeems him in the end, is that he was shot by a red arrow, but then is still able to complete his act. You know,
yeah. He
yeah.
still wanted. He wanted to feel true
He
love.
actually wanted that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, he
he
wanted it.
found his
Yeah.
happiness, which I think
Same,
is
same
beautiful.
situation too. That you can't force someone to kill someone unless they really want to, and you cannot force them to kill themselves unless they really wanted to.
Unless they really
None
wanted
of
to,
them-
right? Which is
Yeah.
very important for our character, as you talked about earlier, who has a very dark perspective on life. And Fallen asked if he had killed, and we discussed, well, kind of killed them, but yeah, you'll see in the series, but he essentially helps them to hurt
Achieve what
themselves.
they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, of what they originally wanted, which is
And then
really exciting.
you have a few other characters like Susumu Yuito, another kid character who's kind of well, he's kind of like shallow. He just wants to have fun as a god candidate and have a good time. That's about it, really.
Hmm. He's
Beyond that,
great.
there's just
He's
yeah,
cool.
he's a nice little like relief, I guess, from all the
Yeah.
seriousness
It's
of all
very
the characters,
realistic
right?
too, I think, because you can see, like, you're almost not sure of his intentions toward the beginning, because he is a young kid and he's just excited. He doesn't even have a very strong moral perspective, and you see him start to align better along throughout the series, but in the beginning, he's just like, "Whoa, like, this is sick." Like, he's not really worried about the morality or the consequences of what's happening. He's just along for the ride, and then you start to see him develop a little bit more as it goes
A
on.
little bit, and
Yeah,
then shenanigans happen. Um,
shenanigans.
But yeah, we get to a point where now you're at the end of this season, or not the end of the season, but like end of this kind of arc. You have two more episodes, and what happens is that the God candidates were all kind of unified, and then this Yoneda character, who is the last God candidate to reveal himself, who's famous and all that jazz, kind of divides the group up, and you're now split into two factions. And along with that, you do also have the variable of other countries trying to kind of assassinate the God candidates or capture them for themselves. So governments start getting involved. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the background, but beyond just these people trying to figure out who's going to be God, right?
Right. I thought that was, they did try to throw it in there. They did try to, like, like, make it a little bit realistic when they're like, "Oh, the governments are after the god candidates." But yeah, I mean, and the people, like, that's the one thing that really I did. Well, not the one thing. There was a few things I had with it, but one of the thing, it was just the reaction of the public and the way that they play. Like, these people just return to their daily lives and wait to see what happens with the god
Yeah, and they're
candidates.
just
Like,
filming it. Yeah, they're just filming it
yeah,
and shit.
people are continuing their research, like, factories are staying open. Like, you can't
You have
tell me, if
conspiracy
you were an
theorists.
atheist and then you find out fucking angels are real, it doesn't, like, you don't take the week of work off. Like, you're like,
Yeah,
well, I got some things to think about. I got some existential crisis to deal with right now.
yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's interesting to see. Like, it becomes almost like a social thing to talk about and like see what people are interested in. It's almost like a TV show. Like
Right.
that this stuff is happening and people are just
And
kind
of
of like
course,
letting it
social
happen.
media exists. So we see social
Yeah.
media getting a hold of it in the series, and people doing what they do on social media and minimalizing things and taking to a very shallow level. And it's like, we're talking about the next god, and people are
Yeah.
tweeting about it and liking, and I'm on this person's side. Hashtag Saki. And like,
Yeah,
what?
hashtag red or hashtag yellow, or like they
Yeah.
have all these little shenanigans going on. So it's interesting to see like the human, like citizen perspective, how they react to it, because
Right.
you do see a little bit of that in Death Note, right? Of
Yeah.
how they react to like the main antagonist or protagonist, however you want to view it,
Kira.
and that experience.
Yeah.
But beyond that, really, it's kind of it's a unique anime. I think that they were trying to be too meta at certain points. Beyond that, I did enjoy it for the most part.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't say that it was bad. I was just a little confused, and I think because of that confusion and because of that, I guess like I said, we did like and Fallen said the same. We were pulled in by some of those characters and pulled in by some of those episodes. So I'm certainly going to be watching around to see the rest of this season kind of finish out, and I'll be waiting for that second season, especially if it's going to be from a different character's perspective and a different director. That gives me a lot of hope too, because it's like, oh, well, maybe this other director can pick it up and works with a different pacing and works with a
Yeah.
different, goes with maybe more or
Well,
less
makes
arcs.
it more, yeah, more like dark and more like
Mhm.
not so much superhero
Or
stuff.
just
So
one way or the other, kind of,
yeah,
because
what
it was
choose
just,
one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Stop going back and forth. Stop dragging me into depression and pushing me up in these heroic fight scenes. It's up and downs. It's peaks and valleys, and I think that's what it was hard to get comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed. All right. So do you want to do crunch time?
yeah, dude. I think it's about time for crunch time.
Hell yeah, dude. You want to go first this time? Because I went first last time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Alrighty. Just to kind of give you guys a perspective, crunch time is where both of us kind of sit down. We do the numbers, right? We look at the animation, we look at the score, we look at the actual character development, look at all the elements that go into developing this anime, and then we give you our final rating out of 10 to kind of give you a perspective of how we felt about watching it.
Yeah, yeah, this is the the crunch time review. So we're gonna get right into it with my review. We basically give this every anime gets a score of 0 out of 10, and I don't think we've actually reviewed an anime that's ever scored less than like a 6, a 7.
I believe no, I gave oh my god, Megalobox, right?
Oh,
I
that's
gave that
true.
like a 5. I gave that
Yeah,
like a 5.
very Americanized anime, Netflix anime. They hit and miss there. They've done some good work, but they've also done some things we won't mention. But getting into my anime crunch time review, let's talk about Platinum End and how I felt about the first 20 episodes. Because, like I said, we just have a couple more to go. Ooh, woo, doo-doo-doo.
Here we
Big
go.
shout out to Jay Drifts, my man. Thank you for being here. But yes, so my review, we'll talk about setting. I did like the setting. I like the artwork, as I said. It's very similar to Death Note in the style and line weight, as Fallen said, just a bit modernized. And also lighter tones. If you look at Death Note, a lot of shaded areas and night scenes. In this series, we see a
Dark.
lot of daytime and bright scenes because, of course, it is associated with angels and not. And it's a lot of contrast. We see that in the two series, and I think they were supposed to work that way. So as it goes for setting and world building, besides my problems with the public's reaction, I liked the setting. I liked the artwork. It felt very comfortable. It felt like I was watching Death Note again, but obviously a different plot, different characters. I love the design of the angels, as I said, very individualistic. Even though I didn't like the whole kind of superhero theme and vibes and arcs, they were very well designed and creative, individualistic suits. So, like, if that's your thing, it's
Yeah.
certainly not bad. Yep, felt great there. Moving into character development, as we said, some characters are kept shallow, and I think that's for a reason, but still not enough there to really grip the character or care if something were to happen to that character because you don't have that attachment to them. But other characters, very, very deep character development, great backstories and motivations, and you start to align with their feelings and wonder what's going to happen to them. So it's kind of 50-50 in that for me. Like I said, we had some good ones, we had some weird ones. As for plot and like story arcs, like we said, it's kind of back and forth. The first few episodes, like as we see that first, if you want to call it an arc, that training arc or that development arc, where you start to meet everybody and understand Madai and his battles, was great. We get into a more action based arc with the character Metropolyman, as Fallen
Yep.
mentioned, and I'm not. I could have liked it, but the way it ends and then moves on into the second arc, I wasn't a fan of. I thought the series probably could have taken a hold there and picked up the second season with the next arc, but they chose not to do that. So it was kind of weird. I wasn't a big fan of the pacing, as I said. The pacing, the plot itself is still good. I think that's why I'm definitely looking to see the second season from the second director. But this one, a little shaky, a little shaky. Other than that, I think overall, I'm gonna give this series. Hmm. Still very watchable, but I'm going to give this series a 7 out of 10 because I want to see where it goes, and I'd love to see the second director. I think they just kind of missed the mark when it come to plot and pacing with the timing and arcs, a little bit of character development. Overall, still a great watch, especially when the series is finished. So a 7 out of 10 for me.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
All right, so one real quick shout out, Mr. J Drifts 9K with the
That's the
subscription, fam.
boy.
Big appreciate to you,
Hey.
homie. Thank you so much, guys. All right, so for my crunch time, guys. Basically, we're gonna go through a few things that similar to Nova experience, right? We're gonna go first thing is animation. So animation is very similar to Death Note, which I did appreciate. Though I felt like Death Note had some more kind of sharp edges to their animation style versus this one has a little bit more rounded feel to it. It's kind of polished a
Nah,
little
no
bit
multi
more,
Twitch
and
link
I did
carry.
like
We
the
just he
duality of
streams
like
it too,
actually
so it's
having
all
the
good though. Thank you
brighter
though.
experience, the brighter kind of scenes versus Death Note's darker scenes, right? So that was cool to see. Animation quality is pretty cool. The actual movement of characters, like the actual animation of them moving at light speed with their wings and how they do their fight scenes, kind of interesting to see how that was developed as well. So overall, pretty nifty. Moving into the score is pretty good. The intro song is not terrible. It kind of gives you that kind of a vibe of like almost orchestral, angelic music, and
Yeah,
then
I
it goes
liked
to
it.
like a nice little track.
Yeah.
And the outro is not bad either. The score in the actual anime itself, there's darker scenes that they do really well with the score, and then there's like the action-packed scenes. So the score, not for nothing, is actually pretty effective. Now, moving beyond that, character development, they did a similar choice where they don't like, it's a smart choice for an anime, especially when it's only like 20 or so episodes, is you pick your few select kind of characters that you want to develop, and the other ones you just keep them shallow so you can spend more time on the main characters that you care about. So I have seen that become a consistent meta across a lot of the animes that we have watched recently, so that's something to note too. Beyond that, they do a good job developing some characters. Some of the characters that they want to give depth kind of still feel a little shallow for me. Like I do see, like for example, like Saki, I see some depth there, but it's still a little bit shallow. Like
Her
it's still
reasoning,
not too
right? If you
much.
boil it all the way down to her
Yeah,
reasoning, I don't mean to interrupt your crunch time, but like it's so small and simple.
yeah. It's
It,
really, really small.
yeah.
So that kind of stuff, meh, in my opinion. And then you have like kind of like the, as we're talking about, the pacing, super fast, then goes super slow, then super fast and super slow. There's certain episodes that really hook me in. I really love like the dark themes and enjoy the experience that they're showing in the characters. But then they go into these episodes where it's like filler, kind of like fluff bullshit, and then they go into like these epic fight scenes, but I kind of like lose the interest in epic fight scenes because me personally, I'm more drawn to like the dark kind of feel, the darkest, like the kind of like this emotional mental health focus, and kind of like looking at how people can be using these abilities in a more sneaky and human way than like being a superhero. I would have wished that they really would have like tried to just stick with their OG kind of style of developing an intelligent anime rather than just trying to pick two different ideas and kind of floating them both would be meta. I would like a more of a Death Note feel in that sense.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I did like the development of certain angels, and even though kind of the last few episodes where they start questioning the existence of God kind of break down and make everything else meaningless that you went throughout the entire beginning of the season, right? They made everything meaningless because they brought this new concept up. I did kind of appreciate that concept. It adds some sort of depth, but
Yeah,
it
it's
really
good.
made everything else. Yeah, it's good, but it made everything else feel so vapid, right?
Yeah.
I think it could have been executed a little bit better. But beyond that, I will go ahead and I think I agree with Nova. I would give this, I was thinking a 6, but since it does have potential moving forward, because I feel like it does have a lot of potential, they can go ahead and just pick one route and then kind of really shine with that route, then it could actually become way better, like an 8 or a 9. But if they keep doing this kind of like juggle between different kinds of things, then it's going to go down to a 6 for me. So I'm going to give it a 7 for right now because I do have hope for it. But yeah, a 7 for
Do
me.
you have anybody in chat throwing up their votes? Chat, I encourage you guys if you've seen this series. We had a Jigsaw in my chat says he gives it a 6 out of 10. He agrees with us on essentially mainly what we're talking about, and that he's been diving deep into Shaman King, which is kind of awesome. That's
Shaman
a
King's
classic,
great.
dude. Yeah.
It's a classic. Is he watching the original or the new one on Netflix?
Ooh, let us know, Jigsaw. He said I might rewatch One Piece. That's right up Fallen's alley. He's a One Piece loving guy, dude.
Yeah, I have a One Piece tattoo, man.
Rise says 7 of 10. Nah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's right around
Yeah.
there, right? You know, it's worth watching, and hopefully in the future, like Fallen said, there's a lot of potential. So hopefully we can see this series really iron itself out.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and my chat saying that they watched Shaman King too. Shaman King was actually the first manga I ever read. I remember picking up a manga at Barnes & Noble randomly one day, and I was on the bus coming home from day camp, and I was reading Shaman King from the OG era. Dude. And those manga are hard to get nowadays too. They're super expensive. But yeah, man. Overall, yeah, it was not a bad anime. I will say Death Note was way better.
Yo,
In my opinion, Death Note's
yeah,
way
if you're
better.
stacking them up, yeah, Death Note, 100%, dog,
Yeah.
100%.
But it's still it's a far cry from Death Note, but it's still pretty good in comparison to some of the other stuff. Did you know that there was over 266 isekais released this past year?
And
Bro,
you're talking to a guy who's sick of
200
watching isekai, so I'm sick of it, dude.
266 isekais, bro. Because it seems like the anime verse has really found their metas. They either go with isekais right now, or they go for like the darker shonen style, like Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Chainsaw Man, like the darker shonens. Versus like you have like all these isekais that are coming out. That's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, not bad. So now we do have a few options for you guys. We do have a few options for the coming next deep
Yes,
dive.
we
But
do.
first things first, I do want to show you guys the trailer for Jujutsu Kaisen Zero,
Oh,
the movie
Jigsaw
coming
literally
out
just said
next
JJK
month.
is crazy. He literally just said that.
So we're gonna watch this to kind of give you guys some premise for this trailer.
Are we looking at
This
part two
movie,
or the film?
the film trailer,
Gotcha.
yeah, official trailer too. So
Gotcha.
this film is a prequel to the current season of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Ooh,
So
a
it kind of gives you more
prequel.
depth. Yeah, it's a prequel. So it gives you the perspective of who the true big bad of the
Some
show is.
character
It
building
kinda,
too, I bet.
yeah, it shows like the OG era of Gojo. It shows that OG era of like the second year students. So there's a lot of development from the back end, and it shows a new main character as well. So there's a lot of weight there. And then moving forward, then you'll actually understand season 2 a lot better because you'll now understand the big bad's motives, right? So that's gonna be a lot of fun. But here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up real quick. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready, sir.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
And people who animate JJK or draw it at least are the same people who make Yu-Gi-Oh card artwork. I swear, dude.
Mappa artwork.
Mappa Artwork's doing Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Let's go.
To answer Stormy's question, you can actually find Jujutsu Kaisen on Crunchyroll. You can find all of the episodes on there. You can also find it on Funimation too, and I believe HBO Max has it as well.
Yeah, they've been
So
gathering some anime titles.
yeah, well, I mean, they purchased Studio Ghibli, like the rights to be able to stream their stuff.
Oh,
No, they don't
okay.
purchase it.
I thought you.
The
I was like,
rights to-
whoa.
sorry. No, they purchased the
Yeah,
rights
yeah.
to stream all their content on HBO Max in the states.
It's like a
right?
battle of the streaming channels. Like, who's got The
Yeah, it
Office?
really
Who's got the best anime? Yeah.
And then to answer Junior Mafia's question, One Piece can be found on Crunchyroll. Some of it can be found on Funimation, but your main source is going to be Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll's
I
going
think
to have
Netflix
everything.
has some in One Piece as well.
Yeah,
Hulu
but it's
has
not
it.
a lot.
I know Hulu. Oh, it's not a lot. Okay.
Yeah, it's like maybe like 2 seasons. It's like very very minimal.
Ah.
So Crunchyroll's going to be if you want to watch One Piece. I will preface this. It is an endeavor. We
Oh,
are
yeah.
over 1,000 episodes, so if you're going to be starting it out, be prepared to watch this like
The next
consistently
year?
for a very long time. So I started like seriously watching it when they were around like 735 episodes, and I started in May in one of my college years, and I did not watch anything else. Nothing else. Anytime I had downtime from my classes, I would be watching One Piece. And it took me all the way until the end of November to be able to catch up to 735 episodes. So,
Damn.
food for thought. Food for thought. It will be a large endeavor, but I promise you it's very, very good. And where we're at right now in the anime is absolutely nutty.
That's awesome. Thank you for stopping by, Stormy. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. All right, so moving into our next selection. Are we gonna? Do you want to just do the next JJK?
Yeah, might
Yep,
as well, right?
yep.
Yeah. So we're giving you the option here to watch the second part of season 1 because remember we did do a deep dive on JJK, but we only did the first arc, the first part of it. So we're gonna be going ahead and give you guys the option to vote for the second part for us to do a deep dive onto it. I would be more than happy to rewatch it because
Absolutely.
the new movie coming out and also you have the new season coming out soon too. So I'm very excited. Let's go ahead and get right into this in 3, 2, 1, go.
Mappa.
Mappa stays killing it, dude. Did you see in the trailer, Gojo's face mask was white, not black?
Yeah. Oh, they definitely like the animation's still great here for this series, but
It's
you can
still-
see the difference in the movie animation is so sharp. and then you have like they have to put out a lot more episodes in the series, so they take back a bit of detail. I think
Though there is like Mappa kind of stays consistent with quality for the most part.
I think it's more
Movies they
of
just have
a
movie they
filter
have more
thing.
budget.
Yeah, exactly. More budget. So I think they're taking more time in the export, equaling a better like sheen and quality layer. Not necessarily the animation is like the same. The artwork is the same, but more of the
Yeah.
level of resolution that's coming out of it, they can produce a lot better in the movie side.
Exactly. All right. So moving next into the second option, it is another anime that is made by Mappa. It's called Vinland Saga. Now, if you have an interest in Vikings and Viking lore and Viking battle styles, you will enjoy this anime. It is personally one of my favorite mangas. They release one book per year. 100% worth it, except 300 pages. But one of my favorite animes to date, and it's very underrated. You can find it on Amazon Prime.
One book a year,
It's
that's huge tease.
yeah, it's one book a year, and there's like 12 volumes right now, so it's been running for like 12 years.
Oh,
But yeah, let's go ahead and season 2 is coming out this year for Vinland Saga, so it would be good to catch up with the first season, so we can go ahead and get prepared for the second season.
right.
And here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Sharp animation.
This is whatchamacallit, this animation style, oh not
3D?
animation style, this storyline is focused on the prologue of the actual story.
Oh, cool.
So that entire season's all just prologue.
That dude was eating a mushroom.
Oh, it's actually the berserker mushrooms.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so the Vikings would actually eat shrooms to be able to go into a berserk mode where they don't feel as much pain, and they can just chop everybody up because they're like separated from their body. It's wild. It's a crazy ride, man. All right, and then the final one is the Blade of the Immortal, another Amazon Prime original. I wanted to kind of give you guys a different option than like Crunchyroll options. This one is something that I'm currently watching. The manga itself is regarded in the same caliber and same level as Berserk and Vagabond, which is saying a lot. Like that's really hard to get to that level. So the manga is very, very good. And then the Blade of the Immortal anime is actually pretty good. It's a very unique art style. It's very much so Edo period style Japan.
Oh, I love the Edo period animes.
Yeah, so the main concept in this anime is the main character killed 100 men, and due to that feat, he then got these special ability called the Bloodworms that this woman gave to him. This old like Baba Yaga kind of character put bloodworms and infected him with it. Basically, what happens is if he loses a limb, these bloodworms will then reattach the limb for him. So he's called the Immortal. You can't really kill him. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Ooh, I like the weapon design. Very detailed weapons.
That dude, the fights are crazy because it's actually one of the main plots are a bunch of what is it called, dojo styles, like fighting styles for the blade with swords are all competing with each other and taking over each other's dojos. So you have that kind of stuff in there too.
I'm gonna have to, Blade of the Immortal. This is looking good. This might get my vote. This is looking good, guys. Make sure to vote on these in our Discords. Myself and Fallen Harry. If you want to drop a Discord link, you guys can jump into our Anime Crunch channels. We'll have these up ASAP, and you guys can drop your votes.
And there's a lot of really cool, like actually really cool fighting styles, and they actually did their research on it too. And people actually take real damage too. Something to note. That they don't just like they all actually get hurt.
Affects the fight, affects their fighting style.
Yep. Bro, like there's this one guy who loses his arm, and he actually takes time to shave his bones down to become an extra blade.
Bruh.
Bro, ridiculous.
Bruh.
he says he spent 2 days shaving. He basically cut all the extra arm off and shaving his bones to become a hidden blade and just stab people with his forearm bones.
That is the most
Wild,
fucked up
dude.
thing I've ever heard. Where can we watch that series? Where's that available?
That's on Amazon Prime actually.
Oh,
So
perfect.
Vinland Saga and Blade of the Immortal are both found on Amazon Prime, and then Jujutsu Kaisen obviously has Crunchyroll. It has, I think, believe on Amazon Prime too. It's also on HBO Max. It's also on Funimation. So very very exciting, guys. It's gonna be nutty. These are a lot of choices. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in my Discord and in Nova's Discord as he said, and so you guys can go ahead and vote on it. We're gonna give you a full 1 week period to go ahead and vote, and then we'll start our 2 week watching period. So you guys can actually go ahead and watch it for about 2 weeks, and then we come back on this wonderful little
Well,
team that we
actually,
like to call Anime Crunch.
do you still want to switch up the pacing? Do you want to? I think. Do you want to make the announcement that we're gonna go monthly?
Well, yeah, that would be the month. That would be monthly. So we
Oh, okay,
have
okay, gotcha. Yeah, a
a
week plus
week
3 weeks.
voting
Okay, that
plus
yeah,
three
and
more
then the
weeks.
week
Yeah,
before because you meet on Saturday.
yeah.
Nova, dumb boy here. Welcome.
Timing's everything, Nova. But
I'm
I
sorry, I
want to
just
say
watched
really quick
Platinum
before
End. My
we
timing's all off, dude.
I want to just say, guys, that we really do appreciate you guys for taking part in this entire experience. We've been doing this for over a year now. We've watched a copious amount of animes, and we really have had a blast doing it. And it's been a pleasure to be able to do this for you guys. All the people who are hanging out, just in my chat and Nova's chat, we appreciate you guys to the nth degree. So thank you for
Absolutely.
being here, guys. Really.
Really, this has probably been one of my best Anime Crunch episodes when it comes to interaction with you guys and viewer interaction and opinion. So I thank you very much, Harry, Jigsaw, Miko, everybody who was here today. J Drift stopping in. We we did when we started Anime Crunch, we were doing manga, but we couldn't keep up Jigsaw because one of us was watching the anime and the other one was having to read like a lot of manga, and also sourcing those things and finding them and being able to actually like financially afford all that manga was becoming a problem. So we had to switch
Yeah.
over to just doing anime. But maybe in the future, if we can find some funding, if we can find some sponsors, there is nothing holding us back. Me and Fallen will absolutely watch and read anime full time.
Yeah, 100%, man. So it's a lot of fun, and I really do appreciate you guys. It's been a pleasure, Mr. Nova, as well, to be able to
Always, my friend.
maintain this friendship. And like out of the entire experience that we did when we were first streaming, it's only been a select few of us who kept going, and it's been a pleasure to be able to continue this entire experience going with you, man. So
I
thank you so much.
No, of course, dude, and I thank you for the exact same reason. The fact that we've been able to stick it out. I've seen so many things fold, so many different projects and little things, shows and podcasts, even things I've worked on that folded. But Anime Crunch has stayed strong, due to you picking up where I lacked off and me picking up where you lacked off, and just doing it together. So thank you so much for being my friend and being my co-host, Fallen Neophyte.
Yeah, no worries, man. So, once again, everybody, thank you. This is a wonderful episode of Anime Crunch. We did a deep dive on Platinum End, and it has been a wonderful ride. So, thank you guys for being here. And I'll go ahead and update those Discords for you guys to vote too.
Yep.
Thank
Make
you
sure to get
guys.
your votes in, guys. Talk to you soon, Fallen. I'm gonna mute up and say bye bye.
Peace.